Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Judd Zulgad. He's Jess Myers. We are at Xcel Energy Center, where the Minnesota Wild has just forced a Game 7 in their first-round playoff series against the Colorado Avalanche. Game 7 will be on Wednesday night. Jess, let's start with the final score of this game. Have you ever seen a more deceiving 5-2 final in your entire life? Because that was the final tonight.
If you looked at the box score, or if you just looked at the score, you would think, oh, easy win for the Wild. This was a nail-biter. I mean, and it looked like it wasn't going to be a nail-biter. It looked like it was going to be a blowout. The Wild jumping out to a 2-0 lead. For all intents and purposes, it looked like they were going to have a 3-0 lead with a 5-on-3 power play. Coaches in college like to say 5-on-3 power plays, major penalties, always change the momentum one way or another, and we definitely saw that tonight.
We saw a shorthanded goal, actually, which made the score 2-1 at that time. It's interesting, the Wild comes out, and this is a weird game, because games 3 and 4 here, the Wild came out and dominated, and I think we all said to ourselves, can they keep it up? And for the most part, they did. Tonight they come out, they score 49 seconds in, Zach Parise scores his first of 2 goals, and then at 9:35 Granlund scores, and the Wild, for the first 5 minutes or so, looked like a team completely possessed.
Yep.
And then
the thought there is kind of, here we go again.
Yeah.
You know, Colorado's going to have another no-show in this rink.
And then Stastny gets the shorthanded goal when it as he comes out of the box, so it goes from a 5-on-3 to a 5-on-4, and that completely changed things.
Yeah,
and from then on, this was as weird a playoff game. There were times this felt like a great playoff atmosphere. Yep. There were times it felt like a preseason game. There were times it felt like a regular season game. And then by the end, it sort of reverted back to a playoff atmosphere. It was a weird game.
The fans were as raucous as I've heard them in some points. I mean, to the point where you're putting your headphones in just to protect your ears. And there were other times where they were terrified. I mean, it was clear that this was an elimination game, and they were fully aware that the season could be over tonight. Granted, the season could be over in 48 hours, but by the end, we were back to that point when they finally got an empty net goal. Mm-hmm. You know, in their third game where Patrick Wise pulled his goalie. This time it didn't work.
They got 2 of them, in fact.
Yep.
Zach Parise, the star of the night, or it's certainly one of the top stars of the night for the Wild. 2 goals, 2 assists, 13 years, $98 million. A guy who last year gave you almost nothing in the first round against the Blackhawks came up huge tonight, I think.
Yeah, earned his money, and I know you're writing about this, but the one quote that we got from him after the game, the one thing he said, I asked him, everybody asked him, is this the kind of thing you envisioned 2 summers ago when you signed that big contract, coming home to your home state, nights like this in the playoffs, bringing the crowd to their feet? To his credit, he said, this is fun, but I didn't come here to win a first-round game. Right. He's got his sights set much farther down the road, and that brings something, I think.
It was interesting to me in late second and then into the third period, Mike Yeo starts to juggle lines again. And I'm saying to myself, and I tweeted this at that time, oh boy, this sort of seems panicked, but it seemed to work, actually.
Yeah,
Danny
some interesting,
played a boatload the third period.
Interesting combinations. He had Heatley with Matt Molson and Eric Haula. I mean, you talk about some contrast. Heatley, who's got tons of playoff experience but not known for any kind of speed, contrasted with Haula, who goes out there every shift going 110 miles an hour and has never been to the playoffs before this year. So, but it seemed to work. And that's one thing Mike Yeo said after the game was, I wanted to get Zach and Mikko together, knowing the season's on the line, knowing the kind of energy and the kind of leadership those 2 guys bring. I wanted to get them together. Lo and behold, Koivu shoots from the point. Parise's there in front to tip it. That's the eventual game winner.
Your 3 stars are Parise, Granlund, and Koivu. A huge swing and a miss on this one. Nino Niederreiter was outstanding tonight. He was fantastic. The fact he wasn't one of the 3 stars, and I know ultimately it's not that big a deal, is a joke. This guy was great, Jess.
Yeah, and if you're going to pick a star on the other team, Nathan MacKinnon is so scary when he touches the puck. I mean, kind of a bounce-back game for him after getting shut down in the 2 previous games in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Man, this kid is good. I mean, you talk to the Denver media, they're ready to put him in the Hall of Fame right now. I think that's premature at best.
He's only 18.
He's a great player.
Matt Duchene comes back tonight. He had been out since late March because of an MCL injury. If this is how you play coming off an MCL, then I think players are going to line up to have MCL problems, because Matt Duchene looked like a guy who hadn't missed any time. He makes a big impact for the Avalanche, and I'll be very curious to see, because he didn't play. I think he played more tonight than they probably expected.
Yep.
He'll probably play more than that in Game 7. At home for the Avalanche, this guy could make a difference.
Yeah, in Game 7 for both teams, it's all hands on deck. If you have anything left in the tank, you put it all out there. This is nothing to lose. This is, it reminds me of like the baseball playoffs when you used to see Bert Blyleven in the bullpen warming up in the 6th inning. You pull out all the stops. I mean, that's what makes this so enjoyable.
What has to happen for the Wild? Now, we've had game 1 where they went into Colorado, and actually I think we all agree they blew the game, but they outplayed them. Game 2 we certainly will give to the Avalanche. Game 5 was just sort of a weird game. We can talk all we want about the officials and this and that, but once again, the Wild had a chance to win that game. It was not, they have not, other than Game 2, I have not felt like they've been out of a game in Colorado. What needs to happen in Game 7 for them to actually go in there and win a game and ultimately just win the series?
If it's a 10-page script, follow the first 8 pages that you've followed in the games you talked about. You know, take the lead, take the crowd out of the game, you know, get a 2-goal lead if you can. They did that in Game 1, and play good defense. Here's the guy that I think is going to be the key in Game 7 for the Wild is Ryan Suter. I mean, you know, not to pick on one guy, but he had a bad mistake in Game 5. It cost him a shorthanded goal. He had a shot that he whiffed on in this game, cost him a shorthanded goal. You know, you paid a lot for this guy. He provides great defense, but little turnover-y kind of stuff like that has cost the Wild in 2 games, and I think he's going to be a key.
Darcy Kemper as well, obviously, is
Absolutely.
huge. Darcy Kemper, if he can come up big, because ultimately, don't you have to figure, because I don't know that we've seen this yet, don't you have to figure a goaltender along the way, if the Wild's going to win the series, has to win them a game?
Yeah.
And I don't think we've seen that yet, because they didn't win Game 1 or 2. Game 3 and 4 here, the Wild just dominated. Darcy Kemper was a bystander for parts of those games, and I thought tonight he played well, but yet I don't think he won the game. I think Darcy Kemper is the X factor in Colorado, because that's where you need the saves where you say, okay, that save might have just won you a game, and I don't know that we've seen many of those saves yet.
We've talked about this too, that, you know, Kemper seems so calm in the way he just hangs onto the puck, gets a whistle and all that. What really impressed me talking to him yesterday before Game 6 was, you know, a rookie goalie going down this road for the first time. He says, hey, this is fun. You know, all the pressure's on them. They're the ones trying to end our season. You know, we're going out there having a good time. I mean, it's just so impressive, the demeanor that he keeps.
He is far too normal for a goaltender. I like my goaltenders weird, like Brizgalov.
Yep.
But clearly right now...
We tried that in the first 2 games.
I was going to say, but clearly
let's
right
go
now,
with the normal guy.
Darcy Kemper is the better goaltender. And anyway, Wild wins 5-2 over the Avalanche tonight at XL Energy Center in Game 6 of the series. Game 7 will be Wednesday night. Check out our coverage, 1500ESPN.com. He's Jess Myers. I'm Judd Zulgad. Thanks for watching.